Good afternoon from the Red Mic. Hope everybody's doing okay on this Monday, tax day in the United States. Fun, 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 right? Yeah. Ugh. Anyway, today's Red Mic message. I started working at the Veterans Land Board in 2010 as the marketing director. Now, my boss didn't hire me. Now, I don't know how much that weighed into it, but my entire tenure there, we were oil and water. And, I get it. I understand, he didn't hire me, but the Veterans Land Board was rebranding as the Texas VLB and implementing a ton of new stuff from social media channels that I designed and launched to buying advertising, which they'd never done before. In fact, before then, the only time you ever saw the VLB, called them the Veterans Land Board, you would basically see it as a free promo usually. So, um, I was also doing a deep dive on all of our sales statistics and marketing metrics, and none of that stuff had ever been done before. There was a lot of pushback, and he nixed quite a bit, a substantial percentage of the various promotions I would present to him. But thankfully, one thing he allowed me to do was he let me dust off some old, unpaid promos that we had featuring Ermey, also known as Gunny. I don't know how many of y'all remember who Gunny was. The reason I wanted to mention Gunny today is today's the anniversary of his passing. Great guy. I met him at the, well, I met him and talked with him a little bit. And even though he always played these loud, gregarious, tough Marine characters, he was really very thoughtful and soft-spoken in person. You knew he could flip that switch anytime, but man, he was a great guy. So back to the background here. Fast forward to mid 2012 or so, and I had what I thought was a really interesting idea on how to really amp up our participation in the Armed Forces Bowl. Now, the Armed Forces Bowl is usually held at TCU, and our participation had largely been just having a booth and maybe a few veterans going. And one year we worked with a home builder who was giving away a home to a wounded warrior, and I think they still do a lot of that. One year we got to meet Gary Sinise, and great guy. Gary Sinise, aka Lieutenant Dan. My father-in-law was also a Lieutenant Dan with the Tarrant County Sheriff's Department, and when I met Gary, I asked him if he would sign the VLB ad in the program, and he very graciously signed it. From Lieutenant Dan to Lieutenant Dan, best wishes, Gary Sinise. Got a lot of son-in-law points with that. But anyway, back to the story about Gunny. Gunny was just a great guy. My idea on how to amp it up was to see if we could figure out some way to get him at the game. Now, the work he had done on the promos initially was a handshake deal between him and Jerry Patterson, the land commissioner. I think it also may have involved some scotch and some cigars, but don't quote me on that. And then we paid him for redusting, dusting off and recutting all of his audio. Had no idea really, other than trying to involve some type of outside advertiser or promotional company on getting Gunny involved. So I thought, you know what? The boss might say no to anything I present, and this thing's just going to stop right there. So it's time to pull an end run. Now, in football, there's a lot involved with an end run. You got misdirection. You got to have a good play fake. You got to have the offensive line create a good running lane for that end who's sweeping around the end. You got to have speed and agility of the running back. You got to exploit the gaps. You got to seal the edge with good blocks. You got to have good timing. But just as importantly, you got to have surprise. End arounds are most successful if they're used sparingly. if a team runs them all the time, they're not going to be as effective because the defense is going to catch on and adjust. They'll put somebody back, or they'll, split the middle of the line and get somebody, cutting through. So, surprise. Well, I had a great idea how to get surprise on my side. I reached out to a great guy. He also worked for the land office, did a lot of work with the VLB. Another Marine, Jim Darwin. Now, if you want something done, definitely call a Marine. If you want it done with grace and style, call Jim Darwin. Darwin's a great guy. And again, he was a Marine like Gunny, so, he knew Gunny because of the work the VLB had done with Gunny before. And Darwin was also very involved with the Armed Forces Bowl. So I bounced my idea off of him, and we got to just chewing the fat a little bit. And he said, well, tell you what, Gunny has been working with Victory Motorcycles. Why don't I reach out to them before we even pitch it to Gunny and see what they think? If we can get them to pay for Gunny to go, he'll be there, and we'll have no money, no skin in the game other than, whatever we're going to spend to try to, take advantage of his appearance. Darwin got it done. On the day of the Veterans Land Board, of the day of the Armed Forces Bowl, Gunny R. Lee Ermey was there. He actually, during the pregame, he rode a Victory motorcycle out. He did tons of meet and greets before and during the game with veterans. That's when I got to meet him. And I'm not a veteran. Both my dad and my father-in-law were, and both grandfathers. Great guy though. Now after the game, there was an area where all the different organizations that had helped sponsor the game were there, and we were there, and we were handing out a lot of VLB literature. The Texas VLB, by the way, does home and land loans, home improvement loans for veterans, but they also run and oversee veterans cemeteries and also veterans homes for veterans who need full-time care. Great organization. In fact, Texas does more for veterans, I would gather, than any other state. Particularly when you also throw in all of the stuff that the Texas Veterans Commission does. So we're all out there in this common area, and there's a band over there playing. Can't remember their name to save my life. They're from the DFW area, and they do a lot of 70s, and they dress up with the big afros and the spandex and all of that. I'll have to get their name and put it in the comments later. So we're out there, and as prep for all this, since we knew Gunny was going to be there, we got a picture of Gunny, same picture that we had put on our billboards all across the state. And it's a picture of Gunny going, doing the "I want you" kind of look. Well, we printed these out and made them suitable for autograph cards. Well, our booth was right next to the Victory Motorcycles booth, so every veteran that walked by, we handed them one of those cards and said, hey, that way you can get an autograph with Gunny. Now, I don't remember the exact amount of time that Gunny was contracted with Victory Motorcycles to take part in this meet and greet and, signature show after the game. I'm wanting to say it was maybe an hour after the game was all that, that was his only paid time. An hour came and went, 2 hours, 3 hours, almost 4 hours after the game, Gunny was still there signing autographs. He signed autographs for every single veteran and veteran's family who wanted to meet him. And that was just the kind of guy that Gunny was. Now, what did I learn? Well, first of all, if you're going to do an end run, make sure your handprints aren't on it. There was an episode of West Wing where they were going to touch the electrified rail of Social Security, and the only way they could get it done was Bartlett had to take his name off of it completely. That way, the Democrat and the Republican that brought it to the table, it was just their name. Bartlett got no credit at all. And it reminds me of a quote. And I'm paraphrasing here, but there's no limit to what you can get done if you don't care who gets credit. Well, I didn't care about who got credit. I just cared that we had a compelling reason to be at the game and a way for people to walk away with a concrete reminder of, oh, Gunny was here. Oh, and look, I've got this Texas VLB thing that Gunny signed for me. So every veteran that walked out that wanted Gunny's signature got it, and it had a Texas VLB logo on it. So again, if you're going to do an end run, make it worth your time. Put all those elements into it some way or shape or form, and don't worry about who gets credit, because at the end of the day, if your organization has a successful event or promotion or whatever it is, isn't that really the important thing? Because you're still going to be there doing your hard work, but who cares who gets credit? Just get it done. Run that end around. I hope you enjoyed today's message. I would appreciate a like, a follow, and a share, whether it's here or on the YouTube channel. Basically, I do this live every day at 2:30 Central, and then I upload it later in the day to the YouTube channel. I hope to see you there. I hope to see you again here tomorrow, and y'all have a good day.